Welcome to FOD Overdrive, the podcast that matters most. We're a terrestrial radio program, and we're called Freedom on Deck. You can hear us on 94.9 News Now and Stimulating Talk, which on the internet is 949newsnow.com. And if you want to check out all that we have to offer, it's at freedomondeck.com. You can live stream the station there. You can listen to every podcast there. We have so much going on. My name's Chet Martin. My co-host is CV Burton. CV, how you doing, man?
Doing well. Hanging in there.
The site is looking out of control. We just gave the new name. It's FOD Overdrive.
For the podcast.
For the podcast, right. For the terrestrial show, it's always going to be Freedom on Deck, but FOD Overdrive. Now, it was FOD shorts
midweek
for a while.
Yeah.
But this new name, FOD Overdrive, kind of gives you like a perspective of, okay, it's a continuation of what we started on Sunday, but it's going to hit you even harder, right?
You know, we were the first ones to do the radio/podcast hybrid, and Michael Savage says he's pioneering that. No.
That's true.
We pioneered it like a year ago.
That's true. You know, I thought about that, and Savage is one of our national shows on the station, WJJF out in Connecticut and Long Island, and he does a great job. I've listened to his podcast. It's really good.
Yeah.
But I think ours is really good, too, and I think the name change is working. The website is really looking good. You're doing a great job with that. And there are a lot of things in work, folks. When you go to freedomondeck.com, you're going to see articles linked from colleagues of ours. I can't say anything about that right now, but that's going to happen. We're going to do this thing called Meme of the Week where people can share memes with us. We make our own memes. Yeah. You make your own memes. Listen, this is the way that the internet is right now. We have to move forward just like anybody else. And, of course, you're going to get the midweek podcast every week on the site, right? That's the biggest deal.
Yep. Well, hopefully we'll stick to it. You know, sometimes we don't do the midweek podcast.
No, we're going to stick to it now. Now that we got the name change and everything's going, we're going to stick to it.
All right.
So listen, I wanted to start off just talking about some accomplishments from President Trump. I think the biggest one is this executive order that he signed to protect free speech on campus. This is a big deal to me, man.
Yeah.
How do you feel about it?
Well, it was hard for me to, formulate any feelings about it when there was this girl on the right side of the screen that was just taking all my attention away.
I heard.
I texted you. I said, this girl is distracting me. I can't pay attention to what he's saying.
You said man alive.
I said man alive.
Yeah, that means that, you're feeling good about what you're seeing.
Yeah,
I know.
I mean, she's probably way too young for me anyway. But, I mean, you can look, right?
You can.
All right, so that's all. So I think what he's doing, signing that thing is sends a real signal. I don't know how much teeth it really has, but symbolically, it's telling all these universities to, hey, cut it out. Leave the conservatives alone.
Well, and it also tells them you have to allow people to express their First Amendment rights on your campus.
Right.
Or you won't get the backing that you need.
Go ahead.
It's crazy because I was looking on Facebook today, and it was on the New York Post, and there are people making, like, the angry face icon. And I'm like, I asked some of them, I'm like, what are you mad about?
Yeah.
There's nothing about this that should make anyone mad.
I don't know.
Except for the fact that they hate Trump. But aside from that, like, what's making you mad? He's enforcing the First Amendment rights for the students, which should happen anyway, because you had this kid at Berkeley that was attacked, and that's not the first time. It happens all the time. And luckily, that one was filmed. But, this is this is years beyond when it should have happened.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I'm glad.
They think it's the left. They think it's not fair that Trump won the presidency, and they don't get to shut down our speech after that. It's like, wait, he won the presidency, so that means it's fair game. It's not rabbit season. It's not duck season. It's believer, achiever, patriot season.
Second of all, I'd like to give President Trump credit and our United States military credit.
Absolutely.
For the knockout of ISIS in Syria, which happened today. And we actually beat the shit out of them. And we didn't drop pamphlets to them.
Yeah.
Like Hussein did.
Yeah.
And I was actually watching Fox News, which I'm starting to do less and less because of the Disney takeover. But that's for Sunday's program.
Yeah.
But this is a statement by the United States president that we are not effing around when it comes to radical Islam.
Yeah.
And and here's the other thing: when he said we were leaving Syria. What was it, last month?
Mm-hmm.
People were calling him out on the carpet for it. He did not leave Syria. We're still there. We are still kicking ISIS's ass. His point was, we're going to leave once we knock him out. And we're not, listen, CV, we're not leaving Syria. We're going to have a presence there. And as long as we have a leader that cares enough to make the correct military strategic attacks when they're needed, we'll be okay.
Yeah, I think when he was talking about pulling out of Syria, he was talking about, that high number of troops there, and under Trump, we were fighting with Assad against the terrorist, but under Obama, we were fighting with the terrorists against Assad. And Assad is not considered a proper Muslim because his particular sect of Islam has some elements of Christianity in it. They're more westernized. When you look at Assad, he is not wearing a beard. His wife is like blonde or something, or from England, and they're very westernized. And he protects the Christians and the Azizis, I believe that's what they're called.
Acides,
right, sorry. And they don't like that. And the terrorists were being given our best weapons, by Obama to fight against Assad, who was protecting the Christians, and they were killing the Christians too. And they were ripping their hearts out of their chests and eating them in front of their children, and all these really heinous things. So, Obama was like an antichrist, and that whole war in Syria was really a war against Christians, in my opinion.
Yeah, and it still is. And I will say I differ with you with Assad only for this reason: I don't trust any Muslims, as far as I could throw them. So that's just how I am. Now that's just the way I feel.
That's a fair idea.
I wanted to get into this story that I sent you, and it's about this woman, and her name is Talia Lavin.
Oh yeah.
Lavin. A typical self-hating Jew liberal.
Oh boy.
And I can say it. I've got Hebrew blood. I can say it. And that this is what this woman is.
Yeah.
She resigned as a New Yorker magazine fact checker last June after her tweet about a disabled veteran's tattoo falsely implied that he was a Nazi. Nevertheless, New York University, NYU, has hired Lavin as an adjunct journal professor. And this is coming from the Wrap, reporting that Lavin is scheduled to teach an undergraduate course titled Reporting on the Far Right, The Fall at NYU's Arthur L. Carter Journalism Institute. That's going to be in the fall. The outlet said Lavin. I'm sorry when I talk about fake Jews. That's how I kind of throw my voice. Her faculty bio says she, as a writer and researcher, focus on the far right extremism and social justice, and of course, white nationalism.
I can't forget that.
The NYU bio doesn't mention her stint with the New Yorker, nor does it mention she was hired a month later by a liberal group, Media Matters for America, which is funded by George Soros. That's my words, not in this article. On far-right extremism, the Rat reported, adding that Media Matters spokesperson said Lavin no longer works there. What did a student have to say? I sympathize with Lavin's politics. This is a student at NYU. But I don't know why someone who had to quit their journalism job for falsely implying someone is a Nazi should be teaching at NYU. The student at the school said, and he requested that his name not be released for fear of academic reprisal, which, that's typical with liberals and conservatives and the bias. Mm-hmm. Now, a week prior to Lavin's resignation from the New Yorker last year, she tweeted that Justin Gartner, who has more patriotic blood in a pubic hair than Lavin has in her entire family lineage, because she is a piece of shit that probably could never ever walk on the battlefield like this guy did in Afghanistan when he had his legs blown off
by real Nazis.
Yes. And the man's name is Justin Gartner. He's a former Marine, and he's disabled, and he's now an agent for Immigration and Customs, ICE, by the way. Mm-hmm. And he had what she said on Twitter was that he had a Nazi Iron Cross on his elbow, which is bullshit. What he had on his elbow was a tattoo from his latrine unit when he was in the Marines. You fucking idiot.
Yeah.
And what this woman did, and many other liberals, by the way, even though we're not supposed to say anything about John McCain, but we can call Marines Nazis, right?
Well, that's a whole other topic that everybody's talking about. But
yeah. So, but here's my point. This walking piece of fecal matter, this piece of shit, goes out. She tweets, and it catches firestorm where this guy's being harassed.
Right.
This Marine who went on the battlefield in Afghanistan, who later becomes an ICE agent. She knew what she was doing. She did that because he's an ICE agent, dude.
Yeah.
Now she gets hired as an NYU professor. These are the people teaching our children. And we got the liberal media daring to say that, oh, how dare Donald Trump talk about John McCain? How dare you not talk about this piece of shit that calls one of our great American heroes a Nazi? And why is that? Because he works with ICE.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, man. I can't come out from under my shell enough about this. This woman, if I could CV, I'd put her feet first through a wood chipper.
But that's what they said about the Catholic students, put them through wood chippers. But before I respond to this directly, I just want to praise Donald Trump for looking out for our vets. He's always concerned about vets coming home from war after being wounded and everything else, not having jobs. He's concerned that they should be gainfully employed, and this is one of his programs. Like he hires returning vets to serve as ICE agents and things like that. And I think that's a wonderful, wonderful thing.
And also they're allowed to pick their own doctors now.
That's excellent. He really does. He really does put America first, and he really does care about America.
He
So,
cares so much. He cares so much about our military and our police and our firemen and our firewomen and our first responders in a way that you cannot even make a distinguishing argument for the prior president. If you do, you're an idiot.
and for all that, that attitude that he has and that love for his country and his people really covers a multiple of sins. Not that he has a multiple of sins, but it would cover a multiple of sins if he had them. So for people to go nitpicking on him about, oh, he shouldn't talk about John McCain after he died. You know, he didn't come out of the out of nowhere starting to talk about John McCain. It was the press were pressing him, saying, "What about John McCain? What about John McCain? What about John McCain?" Trying to get responses like, "Hey, to be honest, I never liked him." All right,
And they did it 2 days in a row. And not only that, you know what? I'm sick of being told that I can't criticize John McCain.
Yeah.
I called Andrea Kay 2 nights ago.
Yeah, I heard that. It was good.
And I mentioned, my grandfather was a Marine. My father was in the Air Force. 3 of my uncles were in Vietnam. One of them died, suffering the debilitations from Agent Orange.
Right.
And one of my biggest regrets of my life is that I never served. I ended up having my son very young. It just never happened for me, and I wish I had.
Right.
But that does not mean that I cannot criticize John McCain because he did.
Yeah.
John McCain's service has nothing to do with the fact that I don't agree with his politics or his policies.
That's right.
We have to get away from that. And here's one thing I will say about President Trump. Just if I was him, I would say, you know what, I'm not talking about him because I don't think it serves any purpose. And I'm actually sick of hearing John McCain's name. He's dead. Let him be dead. And obviously, for President Trump, it's tough because the guy helped spur on the dossier. The dossier, whatever you want to call it, as Savage does. Stop talking about the dossier. But, it's tough for him because this guy did attack him in a way that he didn't attack me and you. But at the same time, I don't think it's going to accomplish anything for him politically. I would just like not to hear the guy's name anymore.
Well, that's why I'm going to start calling him John McDead, because I don't want to say his name anymore. And as for the people who say, somebody who's not a military man like Donald Trump, talking about a man who served his country, Donald Trump's not a military man. He's the commander-in-chief of the entire U.S. military. What are you talking about? But all right, like I said, people are nitpicking Donald Trump when you look at the big picture, he's doing phenomenal things for the American people and for our vets and for this economy. Stop nitpicking and biting at his heels like little jackals.
Little Putians. And
Yeah.
let me mention something else. Donald Trump went to the New York Academy Military School.
Right.
And he was top of his class. And he was a star athlete there. Donald Trump is not inexperienced in the military. That's bullshit.
Yep.
That's not true. They try to point it out like he is. Listen, and then they were like, "Oh, George W. Bush was in the military. He was in the fucking National Guard."
Yeah.
It's no more than where President Trump was.
Exactly.
And he didn't fly in on a plane wearing. I'm not going to get into Bush. All right.
Besides, like I said, commander-in-chief means you are head and shoulders above any military man beneath you. You know how hard it is to become a president of the United States? There's only like 40-something of them.
I know, but Obama did, so I'm going to...
Well, he wasn't a legitimate president because I saw that birth document, and it was a total forgery. And if they had to forge a birth document, that could only mean one thing, that he was an illegitimate president. That was the biggest scam that was ever perpetrated against the American people, was putting that Islamic Antichrist in the Oval Office. It's a sickness. And that's why we almost didn't recover. Thank God for Trump that he's turning the country around so quickly.
Thank God. And that dump truck of a wife or man that he had in the White House.
Michael.
I used to laugh when you said that until I watched that video where Michael danced with Ellen DeGeneres. And you could clearly see.
We're gonna go down this road.
you could see twig and berries. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It was there.
We're touching all the conspiracy bases tonight. You know, the birth certificate, the thing dangling between Michael's legs on the Ellen show.
I wanted to talk about that because this kind of shocked me. It didn't shock me, but Beto O'Rourke was speaking at a campaign event in Ohio.
Yep.
And a student had asked him whether he was okay with third trimester abortions.
Right. I don't even think he knows what that meant. That's how stupid he is.
Now, here's the issue I'm going to get into, and this is kind of what I want to talk about. And he said, well, it's between the woman and the doctor. Now, what people need to understand is third trimester abortions is infanticide. Absolutely. It is during the 27th week till the end of the third trimester, which is the 9th month. And that means up till when the baby can survive coming out of the womb. Now, Beto O'Rourke does know what that means. He has handlers, and he understands that. So when he sits there and says that's between a woman and her doctor, it brings me to a dark area in United States history where we think of the abortion doctor, and I'm drawing a blank on his name, but they made a movie about him recently.
Yeah.
I think it was Gonzel, or I'm drawing a blank on his name right now. I forgive me, folks that are listening.
Well, I can look it up right now because I'm actually sitting at the computer. So go ahead, and I'll look it up.
So that movie came out last year, and that was about a doctor that committed these late-term abortions. He had baby body parts, and they found all this disgusting stuff at his practice. And if that stuff was legal now, if that stuff was accepted, he would have never been arrested.
Kermit Gosnell.
Gosnell.
Like Kermit the Frog. Kermit Gosnell.
So, Kermit Gosnell. Now, think about that. He would be freed nowadays, CV. So what they're talking about is killing a viable life. It's the same as saying, my mother's getting a little old. I might as well just, pull the plug on her. It's the same thing, and especially with a viable life that is in the womb. For this guy to say this, it's offensive, and it's probably the most offensive position I think a Democrat can take right now, leading up to the 2020 elections. There's a lot. Listen, CV, we can go down the list. There's late-term abortion. There's open borders. There's the defunding of ICE. There's the defunding of Homeland Security. There's 16-year-olds voting. There's illegal aliens voting. There's illegal aliens getting their driver's licenses. There's illegal aliens getting Social Securities. Kristen Gillibrand talked about that this week. And the list goes on and on. And Bernie Sanders said he wants to take our guns now, right? Because of what happened in New Zealand. The 2020 elections for the Democrats, I don't see any way they beat Trump because they are just so unhinged right now, and it's almost like they can't help it. Do you feel that way too?
They know no bounds. You know what I mean? There's no low that they will not sink to. And that beta, I call him beta because he's a beta male. He's not even employed.
I have to say I like Savage's nickname for him.
What's that?
Bongo.
I like mine better. Beta.
I like Bongo because you can picture him like in a drum circle.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
No, he's like it's between it's the woman's body, it's her choice, it's her reproductive rights. What are you talking about reproductive rights? You're talking reproductive rights means condoms and the abortion pill or the other pill. What's that other pill that prevents pregnancy in the first place?
Yeah, it's like
that's abortion rights. Yeah,
pre-night pill.
When you talk about a baby that's like ready to be born or already was born, you talk about a U.S. citizen with constitutional rights. So it's no longer between her own body, or her doctor. He totally leaves out the baby. The baby's a U.S. citizen. He has the right to life. The freedom to pursue happiness. What the heck?
Did you get to watch the video?
No, I didn't get to watch the video.
If you can play a little bit of that where the student asks him about that right now, I would appreciate it. Okay, so play like 3 minutes of that.
All right.
One more question. I just want to make sure that I had clarity. Yesterday on abortion, you said it's a woman's right to choose, correct?
Absolutely.
Is that included up until the third trimester?
Listen, I think those decisions are best left to a woman and her doctor. I know better than to assume anything about a woman's decision, an incredibly difficult decision when it comes to her reproductive rights. And so Roe versus Wade, though it is being tested unlike any other time, is still the law of the land, must be upheld. And we must ensure that when we're talking about universal health care, we're also talking about women's health care. And when we're talking about women's health care, we're talking about women making decisions.
All right, so coming back from that, you can hear when they ask him, CV, about whether he would leave it up, whether he supports infanticide. Let's call it what it is.
Yeah.
He says, well, I leave it up to the women and the doctor. And the people are like, woohoo! Like, they're talking about murdering a child. Like, what is woohoo? This isn't like the WWE. This isn't like bull riding. This isn't an NFL game. You're talking about killing a viable child.
Yeah.
But then they constantly bitch and moan about children on the border. And all the videos that
they pretend to care about children. That's the joke.
That's the joke, right?
Yeah.
They constantly say, well, the children on the border. Well, the children on the border are getting raped by people No, that's not happening. No, it is, though. Well, but, that's only because Trump puts them in cages with those people. No, it's actually happening not when they get confiscated. It's happening before that, moron, when they're being sold in the sex trade industry.
Yeah.
Oh, but that's not the same thing as what we're talking about here. Actually, a child that's viable is a child that's viable. And that was always the argument, CV. It's a clump of cells. Well, now that goes out the window. Yeah. This is no longer about Roe versus Wade. This is about murder, isn't it?
Totally. It's like, what about Americans being born at the border of the vagina? Because that's a border crossing too, and that's not an easy one either.
No.
When I came into this world, I was crying, and when it's my time to leave, I'm going to be crying. So you're never happy, but that's besides the point. This is murder of an American citizen, and they don't care about American citizens. They don't care about the Constitution. The left mean to undermine our country and our sovereignty and weaken us and degrade us and eventually destroy us, which is what Obama said about ISIS, and he never did that either.
No, he only funded them.
Yeah.
I wanted to get into one last topic.
Okay.
So over in New Zealand now, they're taking away their guns.
Oh, great.
They are taking away their military-style assault weapons, which means gun confiscation, folks. These people don't have rights. They don't have a constitution. They don't have a Second Amendment. And now, what New Zealanders have been invited to wear at the memorial for these folks that were murdered in cold blood, and no doubt, here on Freedom on Deck, we do understand that this was a psychopath that did this, and we're going to talk about this a little more on Sunday, but I want to talk about this. They're being asked, CV, to wear the hijab.
Yeah.
They're being asked to wear the headscarf in order to show solidarity.
Yeah.
Let me tell you something about that hijab. That hijab in Iran, if a woman does not wear it, she is beat, she is lashed, or she is stoned to death.
Right.
This, you see, I'm not gonna get into this shooter and his manifesto. I've been talking about it all week on the morning show that I call to. We're gonna talk about it on Sunday, and we'll leave it there because I don't want to talk about it right now. But for this type of political standpoint to take place, where we say, oh my God, these Muslims were shot, now we have to adhere to everything they say. We have to expect them to shoot us because they're upset that somebody was shot. This is the way that the left is going to spin this thing. And and trust me, CV, they're going to turn this into anti-Semitism. They're going to turn this into anti-Trumpism. And they're going to turn this into anti-Americanism. Guaranteed.
This is all psyops, in my opinion. I think the guy, I saw some of his manifesto, and he's an intelligent guy. You're telling me he doesn't understand that by doing this, he's smearing the right, and that he's casting a shadow over nationalism or anybody who criticizes Islam. He's smart enough to know, and he even said right in his manifesto that he was a communist, and then he was an anarchist, and then from there he became what was the other one? A neo-fascist, a
neo-environmental terrorist. And he said he hoped that they would round up people's guns.
Yeah, and he says he has more in common with communist China,
Red China, than Trump.
So
and he said he doesn't believe in Trump's policies at all. Now, I was offended to see CNN ran an article saying that he was a Trump supporter, and he was not. This is what pisses me off.
But he's smart enough to know that it hurts, or he's trying to hurt Trump supporters and Trump himself, and help the Islamization, thank you very much.
Of the Western world.
Yeah, and that's what I feel really bad about New Zealand and Australia. They're taking over every Western country all around the entire planet. This is sick. And they do this, and the leftist politicians are all for it. You know why? Because all these Muslims, guess who they vote for? Guess who they keep in power? These lefties. And then they need these Muslims to come in there to stay in power. That's how sick they are.
You know, and it really bothers me because what they use it as their Trojan horse, right? The Islamists and the terrorists. But it's almost like the left uses it as the Trojan horse. Because now, not only are they taking your guns, they're telling you, well, you better put this headscarf on. You better be nice. You better not offend them. You better be this. You better be that. This is bullshit.
Yeah.
This is wrong. And, you know, and I feel bad for the people in New Zealand right now, man, because of this one wackadoodle who you said it perfectly. He's a communist. He's a no-gunner. He is a absolute fascist. He said he was a fascist. He is not a Trump supporter. And he said himself, he's not a Nazi. He said in the manifesto, I don't believe that there are any Nazis nowadays. And in a large part, he's right. There's not many. So what he did was he went out, he live streamed it. It was disgusting. I watched the video. I saw it myself.
I was a little surprised that there wasn't that many people in there to begin with. I mean, it just seemed like there was like a pocket of people in the corner here and a pocket of people in the corner there. But I mean, I'm not drawing any conclusions about that.
And I've heard people say that. I'm not gonna go there because he shoots some people in the front doorway.
Yeah.
And once that happens, people are like crowding in trying to protect children, and I'm sure that's what happened. But the point is not that.
Yeah.
And it's not the point that the mosque created this, which the media creates, and then CARE comes in, and then the Muslim Brotherhood, and that's how that shit all happened. The mosque. I don't know enough about the mosque. I don't know. They looked like they were good people, and all I can say is it was a terrible event. But the fact that we make it politicized and that the people over in New Zealand now have to surrender weapons that, let me tell you something, a military-grade weapon, the gun that I have in my house would be considered a military-grade weapon because it's able to hold more than 8 bullets.
Yeah.
So their use of terminology is trickery. It does not work. And it's sad that these people now are being forced to hand over these weapons where I guarantee you, CV, if there had been a concealed carry permit owner, which I don't know if that happens in New Zealand, but anyway, if there had been somebody in there protecting them, they never would have been wiped out.
There's a lot to unpack here, and I have several points. I'm trying to make it as concisely as possible. But remember, in the months leading up to the November elections of 2018, we were calling the left the mob. Remember that when the mob, they're the angry mob. They're kicking people out of restaurants, and they're pushing. They're creating a crowd to make them feel unwelcome no matter where they go, right? Remember all that? And then, as soon as this fake pipe bomber, totally fake, he was a Democrat, he was supporting, socialist policies, and then all of a sudden we're expected to believe he's suddenly a right-winger, a far right-winger with these brand new stickers all over his van parked in a parking lot for everybody to see it. And all these pipe bombs are just suddenly appearing at all Donald Trump's enemies' houses. And it was a total sham. It was a total false flag. And nobody called them the mob anymore. All of a sudden, now, conservatives and Republicans were the mob. Remember that? Remember how they changed the narrative from them being the mob to us being the mob? All out of that one false flag incident, which was a total fakery. And now I'm seeing it over there in New Zealand. It's a false flag. I could see right through it. This is not real. And the other point I wanted to make is that patriots and nationalists and Christians do not typically perpetrate terrorist acts. It's so rare, it practically never, ever happens. So they are desperate to find one example of a Christian, a white supremacist, or whatever, shooting up Muslims. It's from Bizarro World. It never happens. This is fake. This is as fake as can be, in my opinion.
Well, and another point to what you're saying, over in Nigeria, there were over 162, actually it went up to 200 some odd Christians, black Christians, by the way, mainstream fake news media, that were wiped out by Nigerian Muslims and thrown into mass graves, CV.
Yeah.
And the media didn't touch it. Why? Why? Here's my question. They're black. They're a minority over there in Nigeria because they're Christian. Okay, so they're minorities to the Muslim. So why is it that a black minority wouldn't be in the wheelhouse of the leftist mainstream media?
And under the Obama administration, there was total genocide against Christians around the world. And they felt emboldened because we had a president in the United States who was pro-Islamic. And
big time.
And a news media which never covered any genocide attacks against Christians. I remember, through the alternate media, I remember hundreds of bodies burned alive in Africa because they were Christians. And you could see their charred bodies laying there on the ground. And it was totally underreported. I don't think anybody really knew about it. And then ISIS was going around crucifying Christians, burning them, putting them in cages, dunking them in water, cutting their heads off, and nobody was reporting it. And then you have this one jackass in New Zealand who shoots a couple of Muslims who has more in common with communism than the Republican Party. And they're trying to saddle us with that? Get out of here!
It's not even in America. Like, come on!
I know.
It's so ridiculous. It drives me up the wall. We do have to wrap up here soon. I want to ask you before you get going. What do you think about the whole situation with Fox? They've been sold to Disney. Judge Jeanine Pirro thrown under the bus because of CARE and because they took outrage with what she said, which was absolutely factual, that there's anti-Semitism coming from Ilhan Omar. And then I saw they hired that jackass that rigged the election for Hillary Clinton. Donna Brazile. And I'm like, and then I heard, yesterday I heard Paul Ryan's working for Fox News now. What's going on here? What is going on here?
The two Murdoch sons who took over Fox. They are diehard lefty liberal whack jobs.
They are.
And what is it with children always rebelling against their parents? I don't get it. But go ahead.
Well, I don't think that the dad was ever that hard line. Remember he had the falling out with Savage, and that was the whole thing that created Savage. I forgot what Savage's nickname for him was. But that's what kept him off the station. And for a while, there were a lot of conservatives that Fox News would not pay any attention to. And that's not right. We should not do that. And I think that we have to create something else besides what's on cable television. We have to have an internet television broadcast company that not only does television, but also does it does social media, the whole nine. What we have to do is create something from scratch, because unfortunately conservatives came along too late in the game. Yeah. And I think that is a big part of the problem.
I think it's kind of underway in some ways, like on Facebook. I think the Trump organization or their campaign group are posting a lot of videos and have a lot of talent there who are reporting real news and are totally America first. And maybe we'll get off the ground. But ever since those Murdoch sons took over, it's been a purging of Donald Trump supporters. It was one by one. You had Bill O'Reilly gone. Then you had that other guy. You remember that guy who they claimed he's sending pictures of his body parts to other members?
Yes.
Bowling.
Eric Bowling.
Yeah, Eric Bowling. He was pro-Trump. He's gone.
Now they're trying Tucker Carlson.
Tucker Carlson's not. I don't think he's in the category of being pro-Trump. He says a lot of snide things once in a while, which annoys me. But
but he defends him. He
Yeah,
defends him.
but Judge Janine is totally pro-Trump. She's gone.
Right.
And then now they're going to set their sights on Jesse Waters next because he's totally pro-Trump as well.
Yeah.
So it's sad, but they Muslims own the majority stock of the Fox News company.
Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, they own the majority of the stock, so you can't say anything.
You know, and
bad about.
that's the other thing we have to address at some point is Saudi Arabia, because Saudi Arabia, they're not good, and we need to. I'm not going to get into that whole thing. We have to get going. But listen, on Sunday we would like you guys to come by our terrestrial show, and it's really easy. This is how you do it. You can listen to me, C.V. Burton, and Brian Bro. My name's Chet Martin, and you can do that at 3 to 5. All you have to do, this is all you have to do, is go to FreedomOnDeck.com. At FreedomOnDeck.com, you hit now. CV, am I saying this right? The Listen Live tab.
It couldn't have been made easier. We tried to make it so easy that you couldn't possibly miss it if you tried. Right, okay. As soon as you click on FreedomOnDeck.com, one of the first things you see is Listen Live button. Click it, and then another window will open with another little arrow. You click that again, and then you'll hear 94.9 WJJF. Not just our show, but you can listen to the station anytime, anywhere around the world from our website.
And the great thing is you go on our site and you can listen to our national shows. You can listen to Michael Savage. You can listen to Dana Loesch. You can listen to Ben Shapiro. You can listen to Sean Hannity.
Wait, Ben Shapiro? The Democrats believe they have to lash out.
And you can listen to our morning guy, Lee Elsey. And we have some great weekend shows. We have the Rocky Show. We have Justice for All. We have a lot of good shows on Saturdays and Sundays. So if you ever want to come by, and we're going to be putting out all these different articles, all these different opinion pieces, all these different memes, all this stuff is going to be there for you at FreedomOnDeck.com. So just make sure on Sundays, though, you go there at 3 o'clock and listen to us live. Because this Sunday we have Ethan Garr. Now, CV, he's interesting. He started this robo-killer call blocking app, which is where, you get these annoying calls.
Yeah.
And they're kind of people that are saying, hey, do you want to go back to college? And he created this app. He's a conservative. He's a big Trump supporter. He created this app where you're not going to get these calls anymore. You just have to download this app and forget about it. It's gone.
Oh, that's great.
It's great. And then we have Dan Subnik. Now, that's SUBOTNIK. And he's professor of law, author, and he's author of Toxic Diversity, Race, Gender, and Law Talk in America. And that has to do with all of these uber liberals that are taking over the colleges and what you do about it, how your kids can function in a conservative way while still attending the universities. And I would say, CV, don't send them to any of those liberal universities. Send them to Hillsdale or something like that. Right. Don't bother with any of that. But anyway, it's been a great one.
Okay.
FOD Overdrive, and I will see you on Sunday. And everybody, please be there 3 to 5. FreedomOnDeck.com.
Cheers.